Hey everyone, what's up? My name is Frost Giant, and welcome back to another deck profile. Like I said, I try to get one up at least once or twice a week, and it's kind of raining outside, and I have nothing better to do. So I figured on this dark and gloomy day I would record. So, quick update. One of my friends pointed out how trashy my thumbnails have been looking. Now, if you look at like my Blackluster Soldier deck, my Harpies deck, or my Amazon deck, those are decent thumbnails. Well, everything else is kind of like thrown together, and it looks kind of trashy. So I'll try to put more than 5 minutes of effort into making my thumbnails for the future reference. Just saying. Yeah, let's jump into this. I believe I'm doing the Arcana deck, if I pronounce that right. Yeah, Arcana. And quick side note about this deck, it's all based around coin flips. So hopefully you have cards that will benefit you in the long run. But I tried to set this deck up as best as I possibly could. And as you can see, XYZs and stuff, I like kind of got rid of a lot of cards in this deck and kind of remodified it. So just bear with me. But normally XYZs, I tell you guys, do it on your own because everyone has their own preferences. Oh, that was another side note I was trying to get on. Someone kept asking me why don't I have like a lot of XYZ cards, and because in my personal opinion, I have my own favorites I like to put in despite what other people tell me to do, and I have a ton of friends who are the same way, where like they can be told to put these certain cards in their XYZ deck, but they won't do it because they have their own preferences of what they like in the long run. So that's why I don't really talk about it much because I have my preferences and everyone else has theirs. Plus, I kind of just scrapped this deck or my original outline of this deck and remade it earlier today. So that's why I don't have a lot of XYZs in this to begin with. But yeah, so let's actually get into the deck. So right off the bat, I have one light ruler, in which he's actually not terrible. Him and the dark ruler both have the concept where they can't be normal summoned or set. They can only be special summoned by sending 3 cards you control to the graveyard. And the light ruler, for his heads, if he destroys a card by battle, then you can target one card in your graveyard, add that target to your hand. Or if it's tails, during either player's turn, when a spell trap or card effect is activated that would target him, that you would negate the effect of that card, destroy it, but he would lose 1,000 attack, which really isn't that bad if you think about it. Like his head's ability is good, and his tail's ability, it's not great, but it's not terrible because it like helps you but hurts you. So that's the one downside to that. And then we've got the Dark Ruler, which again, you can only do special summon by sending 3 cards you control to the graveyard. And with him, his heads is he's allowed to attack twice per turn. But if you do attack twice per turn, then he is switched to defense and cannot be switched back to attack until the end of your next turn. And which is kind of good, kind of bad, considering he's got 4,000 attack and defense, so you can hit your opponent twice with 4,000, and his defense is 4,000, so even if he did get switched, he's fine. And the only way he can go back to attack position without is only by card effects, so which isn't too terrible. Or Tails' effect is if this card is destroyed, destroy all cards on the field, which really isn't too terrible in all honesty, unless your whole field is stacked and your opponent has nothing, and which it nips you in the butt. But if your opponent destroys this card, then everything's gone, and then hopefully it'll be your turn in which you can summon another monster, and hopefully your opponent will be open for an attack. So again, it's got these two in particular have their ups and downs to it. But then we've got the world in which during your end phase, if it's heads, you can send 2 cards you control to the graveyard. Your opponent skips his whole turn entirely, which I think is really beneficial. But he is a level 8 and does require 2 tributes for it. And I don't know why I don't have more of him, but whatever. I'll probably throw an actual. Yeah, I probably will throw an additional one in. I would probably recommend having 2 of him in. But yeah, so your opponent skips his whole next turn, especially if they have no back row and you just destroyed their last monster. Then it comes back to you and they're open for an attack, which is literally every time I use him. That's pretty much the combo I have. So that's why I really like him. Or Tails during your opponent's next draw phase, then they add the top card from their graveyard to their hand, excuse me, which kind of nips you in the butt, especially if you just destroyed a super strong card that they just got off, and then they get it right back to their hand, in which they could probably resummon it, which I really hate when that happens. But that's the flaw of having a coin flip. You're literally at a 50-50. And then I've got the moon, in which if it's heads, then you get a summon 1 token. Or if it's tails, then that's also during each of your standby phase you get 1 token. So that's one. I guess it's more of a meat shield and it's good for a tribute. Or Tails, at the end of your at each of your end phases, you have to give your opponent one monster you control. So that really nips you in the ass. So again, double-edged sword. It's either good or bad. There's no happy medium, sadly. I've got three temperances in which you can actually discard this card from your hand and take 0 battle damage. The turn you do this, so it's kind of like a Kribo, except its heads is half all the battle damage you take, or tails half all the battle damage your opponent takes. So ooh, just hit my mic. So I'm really hoping that for the most part you're getting heads on this one, but who knows? Even if you do get tails, it's not going to be too terrible because your opponent will still take damage. And then I've got one, the Chariot, in which if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, special summon that monster to your side of the field, which is good because then you get an additional monster. Or if it's Tails, this card becomes your opponent's monster. So I mean, I kind of hate giving my cards to my opponent, but say you have like, I don't know, the World on your field, in which its attack is a lot stronger than the Chariot's, then it'll just be destroyed anyway, and your opponent will take battle damage. So again, it's got its ups and downs. I've got two of the lovers, in which if it's heads, this card counts as two tributes, or if it's tails, then you can't special summon, or excuse me, you can't tribute summon for Arcana Forest monsters. So he's either counts for two, or you get nipped in the butt and you can't tribute. So again, ups and downs. Then I've got three of the Emperors, in which if it's heads, all Arcana Force monsters gain 500 attack, or if it's tails, they all lose 500. So that's not too terrible in all honesty. Or his attack and defense are both the same. So for the most part, I wouldn't even fret. Actually, I think for the most part, almost all their attack and defenses are the same. Yeah, all their attack and defenses are the same. So as long as you can keep him face down in defense position, then maybe you'll have a chance in which he just will act as a meat shield. And then you've got two, the Empress, and which if heads, each time your opponent normal summons a monster, you can special summon one Arcane Force monster from your hand, which is really good, especially say the Lovers is on the field and you get tails for it, then you can just completely go behind its back and special summon instead of tribute summon. So I've got two of him, or you can have the tails, in which each time your opponent normal summons or sets a monster, you have to send one card from your hand to the graveyard, which is only really good when you make sure you don't have a hand. You make sure all the cards that you can are possibly played, so his effect doesn't nip you in the butt. So then I've got one, the Magician, which is honestly only in my deck for Arcana Call. Arcana Call. I thought I mispronounced it for a second. But if it's heads, if a spell's activated, then his attack is doubled till the end phase. Or if it's tails, when a spell's activated, your opponent gains 500 life points. So literally, this dude nips you in the butt more than anything. It's like, oh cool, his attack can get up to 2200, or my opponent will gain 500 life points every time a spell card is activated, which is kind of trash. But I only keep him for the trap card, which I will explain here in a little bit. And then I've got three of the Fools, in which he can't be destroyed by battle, but also he cannot be switched into defense position. So you can try to set him in defense and hope it works from there, but once he's in attack, he cannot be switched into defense position. So its heads is negate your opponent's card effects that target this card and destroy them, or tails, negate and destroy any cards that affect this card. So pretty much just make sure you don't have anything that would target this card in particular in your deck, and you should be solid. And then I've got one for one, in which it's send one monster from your hand to the graveyard, special summon one level 1 monster from your hand or deck, which is why I have, I just lagged for a second. Why I have the Fool, and I've got three of them, which is literally one for one, is only for the purpose of him, because you get him on the field and he can't be destroyed by battle, so he's literally a meat shield. Then you all know me. I don't know why my game's lagging like crazy right now. You know me, Regeki, destroy all monsters your opponent controls. And then I've got Card from the Sky, in which you just remove from play one light fairy monster, which is literally this whole deck. In which case you could draw two cards, but you can't special summon or conduct your battle phase the turn this is used. But at the I can't even speak. But for the most part, as long as you have cards that you in your hand that you can use at least for a meat shield or something, then you should be fine. Also, I meant to mention the card that's removed from play has to be from your hand. And then I've got Soul Exchange, in which case I can target my opponent's monster and tribute them, which is literally just used for the 5 of these guys, or in case like the Lovers isn't on the field or for some reason like that, and it just allows me to, well, not waste all these effects. In case these guys actually start getting good effects, the last thing I want to do is start getting rid of them one by one, so I'd rather have my opponent. But the sad thing about Soul Exchange is you cannot conduct your battle phase to turn this card's activated, which isn't terrible. I got 2 Valhallas because if you control no monsters and your opponent controls one, or your opponent doesn't even have to control a monster, just if you control no monsters, you can special summon 1 fairy monster from your hand, which again is really effective, especially if the Lovers landed on tails for some reason, then again go right behind its back and special summon monsters. Then I've got Court of Justice, which you can special summon 1 fairy monster from your hand, but you must control 1 level 1 fairy monster, which is why I've got 3 of them and why 1 for 1 is so beneficial to this deck. And boom, again, special summoning going behind its back. And then I've got 2 Cestus of Dogla, in which I mentioned in my last episode with the Melodious monsters, in which any fairy monster equipped with this gains 500 attack. And with it, any damage you do to your opponent, like say you hit them for 3,000, you then gain 3,000 life points on top of that. So then I've got 2 Sanctuaries in the Sky, which is your field spell, and there actually is an Arcana field spell, but when I'm using any fairies, regardless of what the field spell is, I will always go with these guys, which is also, this really benefits the Fool, because you can, during battle damage of a fairy type monster, the controller takes 0 battle damage, which so say he's an attack and Sanctuary's on the field, and say your opponent has like a 4,000 monster or some strong monster and he attacks this, then even though his attack is 0, you will still take 0 damage, which is really beneficial. And since he can't be destroyed, he will still stay on the field. Then I've got 1 Bottomless Trap Hole just to banish your opponent's monsters. And then I've got Reversal of Faith. And with Reversal of Fate, it's practically select 1 Arcane Force monster you control, and whatever, say you got a Tails and you wanted Heads, you activate this, and it now gets its Heads effect instead of the Tails. So you activate it, and it gets whatever the opposite of it currently is. So, honestly, say like with the Fool's a terrible example. But say you got Temperance on the field, instead of your all damage your opponent takes being halved, it then becomes all damage you take is halved. But honestly, it shouldn't be a problem, especially if you have uh, Sanctuary in the Sky, in which you will literally take 0 battle damage involving any of these monsters. But then I've got 2 Mirror Forces, because of course you have to protect yourself in case you have no monsters, or your opponent sacks out its field and is about to annihilate you. And then Arcane Call, which I said is really beneficial, and it's literally the only reason I have the Magician on the field. And it's because you can select 1 Arcane Force monster you control and remove it from play. Remove 1 Arcane Force monster from play in either player's graveyard, and depending on what you got, heads or tails, then the current monster you use this on will gain the removed from play's monster's heads or tail effect. If I explain that at all. So, which is really beneficial. Say you have one of the like light ruler or dark ruler, and they landed on heads. Well, then you could banish him, and they will get his head's ability, in which if a spell card is activated, the original attack of that card is doubled. So literally, they're at 4,000. They land on heads. You banish him, and you activate a spell card. Their attack is now at 8,000. So pretty much you can annihilate the field with it. But make sure you're using it on a monster that has a head, or make sure that it's something that's more beneficial to you. Like say you want to banish him for some reason because one of your monsters is tails. Well, destroy it. Literally get this monster destroyed and destroy all cards on the field. You could either like completely blow everyone away, ramp up. That's really what I do. I either make it so I destroy all cards on the field, or I double someone's attack. Those are my 2 main go-tos. But yeah, so that's pretty much the main sum of the Arcane deck. Hope you guys have enjoyed. Sorry if like I kind of like went on a rant for a little bit. or make something any more clear. But yeah, comment down below any decks you guys want to see. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed this. Tell me if I should add any cards in this deck or what I should take out, etc. Like I said, these are all custom made by myself. Like my friends have told me about them, and I kind of threw them together. Which as like in the past year, like this deck used to be really trash, and over the past year, I've definitely modified it so it's a lot better. Now, no deck will ever be perfect. It all literally depends on who you're battling. But so far, this has a win. It's well, I'm not gonna say it's got a winning record because I think it's less than 500 in my personal opinion. But that's also because the last time I used this was during the whole Dark Magician, Blue Eyes, Chaos Max Dragon, and then the whole Blue Eyes like maxed out deck. Those are like the three main go-tos. So obviously this deck didn't have a chance in hell against them. But for the most part, if you're just playing like a pendulum decks and stuff like that, this card should be fine, or this deck should be fine against them. So yeah. So if you guys want to learn about any other decks, you want to tell me like what, if you guys want to see any other decks I have, or want me to put a deck together just for you guys, by all means, comment down below what you guys want to see. But yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed. Again, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. Later.